My name is Michael Schmidtz. I'm joining you here from Seattle, Washington in the Pacific Northwest. I wanted to welcome my co-host, Addy Dashi. Before I do, my name is Michael Schmidtz. As I said, I look after industry partnerships here at AWS. Today, we're going to be talking about financial services, and I'll get Addy to give us a bit of an introduction about what we're going to talk about today. But before we do it, Addy, how are you? Maybe introduce yourself and how are things in New York this morning?
Hey, Michael, thanks for having me. Super excited to be here. And for this episode with financial services, we're really focusing on modernization. So I lead our financial services practice for partner solutions, and we focus on how do we help end customers solve for their line of business use cases, bringing together AWS services with our partnerships across technology and consulting partners. Our goal is to make it really easy to get started, to migrate and modernize. And so the theme we have for this episode is how we're seeing modernization. We touched on digital banking to start with, but now we're diving into Agentic AI and how can we really deploy production-grade workloads. I'm really excited for this one because New York's the heart of finance. We're getting the autumn coming up. We have a global audience logged in onto this episode. And so I'm really keen to welcome Siva from CEO and founder of Lyzr AI.
Thanks, Addy. Thanks, Michael. Nice to meet you all.
Good morning, Siva. So excited for this conversation. As Addy said, lots to talk about. Anytime we're talking about Agentic AI, it's always, I learn something. So I'm very excited for our conversation this morning. Perhaps, Siva, why don't we start by, maybe you could just introduce yourself quickly and then, just talk a little bit about Lyzr AI and just what, tell a little, for people who don't know you as well, tell me a little bit about the company.
Fantastic, yeah. So Lyzr is an agent infrastructure platform that is designed to run fully private in customers' own Amazon VPC. So naturally, we started getting a lot of interest from highly regulated markets. Financial services is probably the leading industry that we serve today. A bit of background about me. I started as a big data engineer at Tesco. So handling petabytes of data there, moved on to building my first startup when I was in India. So we built PowerUp Cloud, which became APAC's #1 AI ML startup of AWS, winning 6 AWS awards. And I grew the team to about 200 plus consultants. I sold the business to Larsen & Toubro, Infotech, a global SI. And there again, we grew the business out further. I was their global head of AWS business unit. The business grew from 65 million annual business to a 200 million annual business in under 3 years. Again, LTI ended up winning a couple of awards. So a lot of, I would say, time that I've spent with AWS ecosystem, which made it easier when I started Lyzr. I had a lot of friends and they knew what I bring to the table, and we started partnering with AWS from day one, taking agents and agentic AI automation to the market. And recently, even in the AWS New York Summit, Swami also featured Lyzr on stage as one of the preferred agent partners of AWS. So that's been the journey so far. I'm calling in from New York City here in Northeast, but happy to be here.
It's absolutely fascinating to have a serial entrepreneur like you, Siva, on the show, right? It is. We've seen this with our partner network, where those who understand the differentiated position that you can build on AWS and create industry-changing products and services. I mean, your company is a true reflection of that. So it's an excellent, kudos to what you built before with PowerUp. I remember partnering with y'all a few years ago as we scaled, and now with Lyzr, as you're really going after transforming production-grade deployments of agentic across Gen AI. I wanted to touch a little bit on those themes that you called out. We're seeing very similar patterns in financial services. We're really seeing customers, historically, FS customers have been fairly conservative. They've been cautious. They've said, look, I really want to make sure that this particular platform, this particular data that we're using is correctly at the right place. Are we compliant to data residency norms? Are we compliant to the regulatory asks in terms of availability and resiliency? But when it came to Gen AI, what we noticed is they really understood the value of this in terms of what it could mean for their business, and they started leaning in. We saw this happen in the speed of experimentation. We saw several financial institutions kind of collate all of the use cases across their organization and prioritize them in terms of what can drive the most value. but it also kind of brings a kind of slight risk, because once you've got this broad experimentation, you've got POCs happening everywhere, silos of groups saying, I think this is the right answer. It really requires an ability to take those POCs to production. What's that journey been for you? What are some of those trends you've seen in terms of Gen AI and agentic adoption?
Yeah. Today, we work with some of the biggest brands in the industry. They're building agents on Lyzr. I mean, NVIDIA, Under Armour, Publicis from the non-financial services industry. And then we have some big banks and insurance firms building on Lyzr as well. And what we see here is that the intent and the eagerness is the same across both financial services and non-financial services. Whatever innovation that someone at Under Armour wants to do is exactly what someone at Goldman Sachs or JPMC wants to do as well. So we don't see there's a issue with respect to the energy levels or intent, but it comes down to a safer ecosystem for them to build all of this. You don't learn driving by hitting on I-9 on day one. Like, you learn driving by trying to drive your car in your backyard and then slowly progress. And that is what we did at Lyzr. We realized that customers need, especially financial services customers, need all the building blocks that are required in an agent development lifecycle, right? Starting from agents and orchestrations and knowledge base and knowledge graph, responsibility, guardrails, hallucination, the whole thing, whole 9 yards, including agent evaluation. And we realized that what if we bring the whole ecosystem into their own Amazon VPC, so that not even one byte of data has to leave the environment and they could test all of it. So this thought process literally changed the way these organizations build. We have one of the largest insurance firms who started with a very niche use case. They started with automating retirement planning to begin with. And we built, and the agent went live, or rather pre-production, in 8 weeks. Then I was invited by the CTO to come in and do an agent masterclass to the whole leadership. And I did a 90-minute masterclass to about 100 plus leaders in the organization. And within a week, I think couple of weeks, we ended up getting calls from 6 different departments, because the whole leadership team realized that they could innovate at the same pace as a startup, but within the controlled environment, everything within their own cloud. So I think that's been the key, designing the entire architecture to run completely locally within customers' own cloud. We do have a SaaS version that runs on AWS. So some customers start on SaaS and then obviously progress towards on-prem or /VPC version. But I can say that the intent and energy is actually the same across both on both sides.
It's interesting you say that, Siva. So firstly, I love the term serial entrepreneur. I don't know whether anybody's used that to describe you before, but we definitely can learn a lot from your experience. So I'm so glad we have you on. I was just sort of listening to you and thinking a little bit about what you were saying. What I've heard from a lot of customers, partners, especially last year, I think there was a lot of, a little bit of fear of missing out, a little bit of kind of like, I know I need to be doing things with agentic and generative AI, but I'm not sure what can I do. And I've definitely seen the conversation pivot a lot to, really letting the use case and the workflow, the business workflow, drive the use of AI rather than the other way around. And so, when you're talking about, like, for me, and I was reading the pre-brief before we got on today, compliance is just such a, in some ways, I would say obvious, but a very strong use case for what you can do with the agents. And particularly, I go back to what somebody once said to me is, like, anytime there's a heavy lift for a professional, you might have a good case for AI. And for me, just looking at some of your use cases and customer stories already, the impact that you've been able to have for a financial services organization on their compliance requirements, both in terms of, not just in terms of the efficiency and the ability to do enormous amounts of, work with an agent that a human would have taken a much longer time to do, the accuracy, but also the flexibility that you just described, to be able to say, okay, well, this workflow is a start, and to be able to do enormous amounts of compliance management is a great start. But it's a platform on which you can integrate other agents and other aspects to the workflow in, if you start simple.
Yes. See, I wrote the core Lyzr agent framework back in July 2023. It's been like 2 years, wherein we've evolved from a framework company to a full stack infrastructure company. And I've interacted with hundreds of CIOs building thousands of agents. And I can say this for sure. After failing in a lot of agentic projects, I can say for sure that there are two critical points that defines whether an enterprise would be able to deploy an agent in production successfully. It is very similar to an airplane taking off and landing. If you know the process behind the scenes, the pilot is most involved during the takeoff and during landing. Rest of the time it's cruise control. It's a very similar thing that happens here as well. Most of the time we spend today with the customer is during at the beginning of an agent development. We try and understand what is the problem and what is the type of agent or type of orchestration, type of context engineering that we need to do in order to solve that problem. So we spend a lot of time there. Once we do that, rest all is like in cruise control mode. Build an agent, build the orchestration, attach the knowledge base, all of that, RAG, graph RAG, everything is taken care of. And then the last part, the landing part, is the agent evaluation. Today we have the Lyzr agent evaluation engine that can run 10,000 simulations for a simple customer service support agent. 10,000 simulations running and testing various aspects, tool calls, knowledge calls, etc., so that you are absolutely sure that your agents actually work. You have tested all the scenarios. A bank or an insurance firm always have to share their reports to the MRM team, the model risk management team internally, the InfoSec teams, before even they could push things to production. So we realized that these are two critical points. Though we built the whole infrastructure platform end to end, we tend to spend a lot of time during the discovery phase so that we map things properly, and then towards the evaluation stage. And I always share, tell to our customers, right? Like, I meet fantastic CIOs who are like industry veterans. They've spent 20-25 years in this space. But I do tell them that don't worry about mapping this whole thing, which is where we come into picture. I have a 5-year-old kid. He doesn't come to me say that I need Tylenol. He says, I'm feeling tired. So he shares the problem. It is up to us to figure out, okay, how do I solve this problem? So that is the kind of approach that we take. So yes, that's been kind of our approach to the industry team here.
Yeah, I think this very much resonates with the AWS style. We right at the heart of our operating model is our leadership principles. And so, diving deep and understand the customer obsession to understand what is the real problem behind the ask is something that is so close to our heart as well. And I think when we're thinking about applying this into financial services, I think you called this out in one of our previous chats. You've been able to drop regulatory compliance workflows by 40%. You're talking about consistent observability and having audit trails maintained. These are right at the heart of those compliance asks. Do you want to share a customer case study? I think y'all really called out some fascinating ones in our pre-brief discussion before.
Yeah, we can bring up the workflow architecture to showcase what happened behind the scenes. So this is
that'd be great.
So we started meeting a lot of GRC teams, governance, risk, and compliance teams within banks, and we realized that they actually spend a lot of time in internal audits, basically, right? So we have, for example, FINRA, FRB, OCC, various banking regulators who kind of have written these policies that have to be followed by different teams within the organization. We are talking about, customer support. So FINRA, for example, if you can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Slide number 2. So if you see here, we have FINRA, which applies to several, I would say, teams internally. We're talking about FRB and OCC handbooks, which are being again applies to various teams within the organization. So we thought, okay, in the world of agentic AI, this could be solved from a different angle. So what we did, we spoke to these organizations. We actually visited DC, met the leaders, and we understood what they are thinking about the whole space. And then we scraped all the handbooks, excuse me, of FINRA, FRB, OCC, FDIC, all the leading regulators in this space, and built a very large knowledge graph, which runs on Amazon Neptune, by the way, in the backend. And the knowledge, this agent now plays as a powerful agent, which could be plugged into any workflow within a bank. And imagine the whole thing can run privately, locally as well. So if you think of customer support as a process, the customer support agent in real time can interact with the regulatory compliance agent to check whether that particular transaction or session is compliant or not. Imagine what it brings to the table. We are talking about real-time compliance at a agent action level applied across the organization. So when your internal audit team, if they do a random sampling, and they give a clean sheet, and then an FRB or OCC comes in and they do a random sampling and they find and actually give you MRAs, you don't have to go through all of this worry now. You have a system that is checking for compliance in real time, and the graph agent continues to track any changes that is happening from the regulatory bodies and update those changes. And this is perfectly in line with what some of the regulators think. When we asked FINRA, what is your number one, I would say, agenda, they said, we want to serve our member companies, member organizations in a better way. And now Lyzr is playing that role. We are building all of this, ensuring that the banks and insurance firms and financial services firms are able to be compliant at an agent action level. I think that is the future. That is a future that we all are moving towards, real-time compliance.
And I think you've just brought out something that is so powerful, right? A lot of these regulations are out there, and the regulators are looking for clear intent. Are you doing the right things? Are you following the spirit of what we're trying to do to protect the markets? And so by preparing this, not only have you been able to extract those regulations, keep them in a easily parsable library, but the semantics and ontology you've built out is a pattern that will continue to develop. So what you've extracted into Neptune today on AWS is going to connect back to the internal document libraries, be able to interpret that context, and then continually maintain a learning library of sorts that Lyzr can continue to level up on over time. It's a very fascinating approach you've taken.
Absolutely. And imagine all the models coming via Bedrock, all your ML models running on SageMaker. So, and Lyzr is able to integrate with all these services natively. It just changes the way now banks can operate. They don't have to wait for multiple clearances and software certificates, etc. Everything is like by default available.
Yeah, I think the thing I also love about it is it's completely real time. Like, it's just to be able, with 100% accuracy, to be able to distill these things up. And, I think there's also, you can bubble them up for human interpretation. So you can say, okay, well, and how far you take the automating of, how you manage those, you can experiment with. But I think, once you've trained on the large data set, which is of course all your compliance documentation, the ability to move quickly and be able to, roll it out into a new set of scenarios, or be able to assess something new against the compliance foundations is very quick. Whereas, historically it would have taken an enormous amount of human effort to kind of re-review a document, make sure you're up to date with the current compliance requirements. I mean, it just speaks to me at the heart of what is a fantastic agentic use case. So yeah, very, very, very interesting.
Yeah.
I wanted to call out, right? Lyzr is a GenAI competency partner, and this is really important for AWS. We really make sure that our partners who are specializing are making that right investment to learn how they can use our best practices, services, and architectures. But on the other hand, we really make sure we want to invest into the partners who've gained the competency, who are building these verticalized solutions. And so something that we often do in my team works with our regional counterparts across EMEA, APJ, and the Americas is, how do we take these ready patterns create the workshops and as we call game days to showcase these to customers. We do them in the form of roundtables, we do them in the form of individual customer workshops, and then we invest in them so customers can get really quick in applying those patterns. So just wanted to call out the great work Lyzr's team is doing, but this is about helping you scale. And any thoughts about how you're looking to the next 18 months? How does Lyzr look at scaling the patterns? What are the themes you're going to focus on?
Yeah, we already have close to 1,000 agentic blueprints. So, for example, we solved customer onboarding, corporate customer onboarding for a bank in APAC. But now that blueprint is available for any other banks to just clone and start using them. We follow the AWS thought process that whatever customer builds on Lyzr is customer IP. So several such blueprints are available today on Lyzr. So as a bank or an insurance firm, when you adopt Lyzr platform, you also get these blueprints, not only for your vertical automation like loan processing, claims processing, customer support, and so on, but also horizontal corp functions, including your HR automation, marketing automation, sales automation, and so on. So over the next 18 months, our direction is to work with more financial service customers, help them automate workflows, have these blueprints available to the larger ecosystem. But the vision that we're working towards is something we call as OGI, Organizational General Intelligence. And that is really where Lyzr kind of stands apart from every other player in this space. All the agents that we build on Lyzr, they interconnect via an agent mesh, and they continuously enrich a central intelligence for the organization. Imagine your HR team or a people team having their own intelligence being built in real time. Similarly, your marketing team, your loan origination team, and so on. But as a bank, in about 24 months, you are looking at a central super agent that knows literally every process. It has mapped out all the process. It is able to now unearth patterns. It is able to figure out things that may break tomorrow, like today. So OGA is literally achievable, and we have some early versions of OGA running already. And that is a big release that we are moving towards. So that's in store for the 18 months. I think we are super excited about where we are headed as a technology, not just Lyzr. I think as a technology where we are headed. And our goal here is to just enable every financial services firm own their own IP, because please understand, they're not building necessarily some workflow automations. They are building their future AI employees. So, and that is an IP that they should own. They should not get logged into these other large enterprise platforms. And hence, we believe in that. Own your AI employees, own your knowledge, and get to OGA.
I think that's, again, we were just talking about before, but it's the real power is to be able to build out your agentic architecture, to be able to make it more sophisticated, be able to integrate more variables and more elements into your agentic architecture, to distill the decisions up to humans where you need to. But, at the end of the day, where decisions are 99% the same decisions, well, maybe those are automated too. But, what I love about the mental model is to be able to make those steps when you're ready, and so, I think it's fantastic. I really enjoy your vision, and I think it's a very, it's a bold vision, but I think it's a very real vision. So, great to hear that, Siva. I know we've got a couple more slides we wanted to get to. Let's pop up. Siva, maybe you just quickly walk us through there. We're getting a little low on time, but I did want to get to this slide because there's a really interesting story here. So perhaps you could just talk through this a little bit.
I'll probably take just 30 seconds on this. This is probably one of the most complex use cases that we've ever received from a bank in the financial services space. Here we are talking about a multi-agent system that actually picks every lost customer. So customer who wanted to onboard and then during the onboarding stage they dropped off. Now the agent goes and analyzes more about the customer, follows up with them, and during the conversation, the agent scores what is the profile of the customer. And if it realizes that it could actually give them some fantastic offers and bring them back on board, it does that in real time. And this is probably, like I said, I would rate it from a complexity point of view right on top. And this is going pre-production shortly. So just to show, we want to show the kind of complexity that Lyzr platform could solve for banks and insurance firms. And if you would like to know more, I think next slide has some contact information. Next slide, sorry. We'll just move from use cases. So please visit Lyzr.ai, and if you want to build, just visit studio.lyzr.ai, which is a self-serve platform for you to give an idea of how agents are built. But we have a custom agent development team, and we deploy forward deployed engineers to our banks and insurance customers, so that you don't have to kind of worry about building. We're going to build it with you to help you accelerate the whole Agentic AI automation.
That is absolutely fascinating. I think just specifically to personalization, it's one of the largest themes we see in FSI when it comes to analytics and cross-organizational insights. Immense value to the CMO, immense value to the sales teams. We've seen specific asks in asset management that ask for better portfolio construction, insurance in terms of right customer targeting and claims processing. So I think what you just called out and at pre-production today, but it's just an excellent asset to have and showcase. So we're more than happy to kind of support these go-to-market motions. And I think the GenAI competency offers a number of funding structures as well that help us drive these as workshops for customers.
Indeed. Well, I can't believe 30 minutes has gone past. Siva, this was a thoroughly engaging conversation, and honestly, we can all learn a lot from you. The serial entrepreneur, you've been through this journey. I would love the fact that you were able to sort of share a couple of things that have worked, things that haven't, the key success factors. This was a fantastic conversation. So we really thank you for making the time for us. Really appreciate the partnership. I'm going to just, if we could pop up our QR code as well. You saw the details about how to engage with Lyzr AI before. Please give us feedback. I hope you enjoyed this half hour as much as Addy and I did, and I hope Siva did as well. Addy, Siva, thanks for making the time. Siva, any last words for our viewers? Otherwise, we're gonna finish.
No, it was fantastic conversation. Thanks for having me here. And this is going to be my last company. We're taking all the way to an IPO. So I want to lose this tag. Yeah, thanks for having me here. Thanks, Mike. Thanks.
No worries. Addy, any last words from you?
Well, this was a fantastic session. Agentic is just accelerating and fascinating to see those FS case studies and examples. So there's more to come.
All right, fantastic. Thank you for joining us on Industries Live. We look forward to joining you every other Tuesday. So in 2 weeks, we'll have another bunch of interesting partners to talk about their interesting customer stories. But in the meantime, enjoy your day, and we look forward to seeing you next time. See you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Build safe and responsible agents. Introducing Lyzr.